Want entertainment designed just for you? Then check out customizable streaming TV from Xfinity. It makes your life simple, easy, awesome.
Xfinity gives you customizable streaming TV options. Enjoy the most free shows anywhere on any device, and even access your streaming apps right on your TV with X1. Go to Xfinity.com, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store today to learn more. Restrictions apply.
Hi everybody, it's me, the Fetch, host of Inside the Eye Live. Before the Sunday mainstream media political pundit talk shows, there is Inside the Eye Live, where we break down some of the weekly mainstream media talking points before the talking points even get aired. Add in some entertaining stories, weather, cats, intriguing and informative guests, and you get one of the most listened to Saturday morning streaming media political talk shows going today. And it's all right here on our flagship station, Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. So join me, The Fetch, for Inside the Eye Live every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern. It is truly intelligent media for the politically aware.
Welcome to Sacred Matrix, a divine paradigm of love and universal consciousness, with your host, Janet Kira Lessin and Dr. Sasha Lessin.
Together, we transform the world.
And now, here are your hosts, Janet Kira and Dr. Sasha Lessin.
This afternoon.
We're Miesha. We switched to Miesha Johnston.
Oh, you'll have to give me her.
Hey, cancel that one.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, we've all been dealing with a lot of wounds and illness, and so our guest, I won't name her name, can't come on today. So Miesha Johnston is coming in her place. And where did I get to so far? Sacred Matrix on Revolution Radio. I'm Janet Kira Lessin, your host, along with my co-host, Dr. Sasha Lessin. And while Mad gets Miesha, and Miesha's friended you on Skype, dear, so go find her. I'll tell you about Miesha Johnston. In 1991, Miesha founded the Star Family Contactee group, and was a director of U.F.O.C.C.I, which stands for UFO Contact Center International, and also Celestial Contacts in Nevada through 98. She was a working group member of Stephen Greer's C.S.E.T.I in Las Vegas in 97. She was a coordinator of the Art Bell Chat Club San Diego chapter from 98 to 2001. She has been interviewed on many radio shows, including Art Bell's Dreamland, and has spoken at UFO conventions throughout Nevada, Colorado, and Colorado, California, and Nevada. Sweetheart, finish reading this while I give Matt the Miesha's contact.
Okay. Hi, this is Dr. Lessin. You know, Miesha is going to be talking about some of her contacts. But a lot of the contacts are there, and we've forgotten them. And many of you who are listening probably have had. If you imagine something, it just might be what was or is, or where do you go when you image things. So while we're waiting for Miesha to get on, I'd just like you to have a little, if it's safe for you to do so, close your eyes. Okay, and I want you to imagine that you're at an extraterrestrial meeting. The Galactic Federation of Light has given a special committee of people, mainly humanoids, but there's a couple of friendly reptoids there, but ET species who want Earth to make it, who want the human species to survive and thrive. And so they're asking you, what do you think about Earth the way it is now? And you're telling them how it is right from your heart and your clarity. And you're letting yourself, while we're waiting for Miesha, receive telepathic ideas from these beneficent helpers of humanity about what your mission is and what Earth needs to do. So just take a moment to do that, and Janet will complete the introduction of Miesha.
Thank you for that interlude. Miesha, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Are you there?
I am.
There
How are you
you
doing?
Yeah, we had a little mix-up, but we got you finally. Thanks for joining us. And today we're going to talk to Miesha Johnston. I didn't get to finish your bio, so let me do that real quick here, because there's a lot of important information in this bio. So Miesha is a second-generational experiencer, which started at age 3, and she has had numerous contacts and abductions, and has been involved with at least 5 different alien types: the Greys, insectoids, mammalians, reptilians, and human-looking groups. She's had many MILAB experiences and has been in the underground bases, which includes a Black Ops branch of our government and some Grey and Reptilian factions. She was born and raised in an MK Ultra family, and she will explain what that is. And she started her trauma-based training for Project Monarch and put into service at age 9. She's going to tell us all about what that means. And Miesha has 2 missing periods of time in her life extending to 8 months each time, but I'm only aware of the one, during which time she has little or no memory of what happened. This included a wedding and a husband, and she has no memory of this husband at all. And her book did get out in 2017, which is called Covert Abduction, Military Harassment, Surveillance, Interrogation, and Mind Control, the Autobiography of a Survivor. And it's available on Amazon.com. And one final thing, Miesha is a certified hypnotherapist. She specializes in trauma release, hypnosis and regressions. She facilitates 12 experiencer support groups each month. 2 are in her private residence in Las Vegas, and the others 3 times a week. She has a private internet live chat room on zoomchat.com, and you can see her events on Facebook. She has a show on K-Core Radio every Saturday, Star-Seed Awakening, and she is a cast member of the iVol TV show, Transcending Reality Show. This is one busy person, and I'm very proud to call her my friend. There. Now, Miesha, what would you like to add?
Hi. No, you covered everything. Yeah, you covered everything. I always like to make sure that people do know about the groups, because it is a place for people to come and share their experiences on the internet, on Zoom. It's a virtual live group, which I actually make sure that it's very safe and protected, because the only people that can come to it are invited by me. I will give them the link, but all they need to do, if they're interested, is contact me or come to the events, sign up, and then I send them an email and we talk a bit, and then we find out if it's the right group because I have, the MK Ultra DID MILAB Experiencer group that's every Thursday at 3 to 7. And then I have the channelers. It's Starseed channeling. So anybody who's getting downloads, or they feel that they're getting contacted, galactic light language, which is what I do, channel and galactic light language. It's also a medium. So we talk about all these things, automatic writing, symbols, all of it. And so that's on every Saturday after my Cake Cork show, which is from 12 to 2. And then that one's from 3 to 6. And then I had a group that I finished today at 3 o'clock. Did it end at 3? Well, end a little bit earlier today because of the holiday. But it goes from 12 to 3, and that's for experiencers and my labs also as well. So, yeah, those are all those.
Pacific time, correct? Pacific
Standard Time, yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so if they want to know about their groups, these groups, they go on Facebook, and what do they put in on the Facebook?
All they have to do is go to the events, go to the events and see what the listed events are on the calendar. You'll see my events there every single week.
On the calendar, where? On your website or the...
No, on Facebook events. And anybody wants to know about anything, I just go on Facebook. You'll see a menu. On the left, it will say events. If you click that event, it'll tell you all the events that are going to be happening in not only in your area, but on the Facebook or on the internet, because it's so that's where I advertise.
Okay, that's something I wasn't aware of. So you can click on Facebook on the left-hand corner and you see all the events.
Yeah, you'll just see events.
And your event is called Star-Seed Awakening. What is your event called?
It's called, the one that I had today was Star-Seed Awakening, E.T. Contact Experiencer Group, and MILAB group. And then the ones that I have, the other events would be MK Ultra, DID, MILAB Experiencer Group on Thursday. And then the other group will be the Star-Seed Channeling Group. So you can go to the calendar and see them.
Wow, feedback. Okay, there, I see that. Yeah, today's show was called Star-Seeds, ET Experiencers, MILAB, MK Ultra. Alrighty. So now I had a question for you, and then Sasha has a question for you. Let me go back to where I have your bio. Oh, I just lost it. Okay. So you had... Okay, first of all, what is a MILAB experiencer for those who don't know?
Okay.
MK Ultra and Project Monarch. Let's set up these terms and explain those things for our listeners so they know what we're talking about. Because a new person, they're going, what's all this stuff they're bantering about? They don't know what it is.
Exactly, right. All right, well, a MILAB is someone who has had ET experience, and for whatever reason, whether it's the genetic bloodline, DNA line, or their psychic abilities or their knowledge of the ET crafts or whatever, they will be re-abducted by factions of the Black Ops, the government, the elite, or there's several of them that do the abductions actually, and then they're sometimes used in laboratories. They may be experimented on themselves, because let's say they just had an experience with an ET a day or so, or even hours after, they're re-abducted by the government. So that's it. MILAB is military abduction and also lab, because that goes in place. A lot of people have had memories of being in with doctor type people and experimentation with on all kinds of equipment. Sometimes they're just interrogated on what they know about the ship, how it is powered, the propulsion system, or they're asked about what you learn on the ship. And with me, I was for a long time being taught how to be what I believe is now, that I've been told, is a translator. And so I experienced a lot of different languages and training and things like that. So I believe that was what they were interested in. And also I do, because during my MILAB experience, I was a translator for different ETs for the factions of government to understand. So that's basically MILAB. Okay, so the other...
Let me ask a couple questions on that before we go to the next one.
Sure.
So you said that the Black Ops branch of our government, and some Grey and Reptilian factions, abduct people after they've been abducted by ETs. Now, how do they know that the person has been abducted by other ETs? How do they know that?
Because they put implants in us. They know for different reasons. They can know from a frequency. They can know because they're watching the genetic line and see if anybody's being taken by the ETs, and then they're interested in what's going on in the experience.
So when do these humans get these implants, and which humans are selected? Is it everybody? Is it only certain people? When do we get it at birth, or what happens?
I actually don't know. In my case, I believe my implants came very early, but with other people, some people don't remember MILAB experiences until they're older. So it's hard to say. And now, since technology is so amazing, they don't need to implant you. They can tell by frequencies. They're psychotronically hooked into people, and so I'm sure that's how they can tell now. They don't even have to have an implant. But with the other, it's an implant, a tracker. Basically, that's what they put in people, is trackers. It's not hard to put in tracker. They put in trackers all the time.
Right.
Well, even the police.
If you look back 50 years ago, in Star Trek, they used to go around a planet and they could tell that there's humanoid life there. Mm-hmm. And I remember listening to an interview with Alfred Weber and one of his guests, and she said that they could identify, how many lions are in the jungle, right? So they have identifiers for individual species, so it's logic. What I got in my downloads, I am an experiencer, is that we each have a soul signature and a signature of our body. Our body has a unique signature, and the two get matched together in a symbiotic relationship. And so that seems like that could be trackable as well. So that makes me wonder what made them have to do implants in the first place. But now it's, I agree with you. They probably have this advanced technology and can identify individuals that they want in their program, and they probably can identify them by different things like their DNA and stuff like that. Do you have a comment, Dr. Lesson?
Well, just from my perspective, after the Council of Hatona, way back so many 100,000 years ago, different skyfaring species, including reptilians, 12 humanoid Lyran refugees, and one reptoid group contributed the basic genes to make a hardy being for Earth. And the reptoids made sure that, particularly, that their part of the brain controlled the brain stem. It's where greed and hierarchy and survival and so forth take place. But we start with all these different. Each species wanted its particular genes to be dominant and so forth. It's a long story. That's what I had about that. But, Miesha, what I was going to ask you, going back to the visualization I gave in the beginning, that, if you were asked to assess for beneficent ETs the situation that you find Earth in and receive from them the main message for humanity and what you can do about it, what do you get?
Okay. I think one thing is we have to learn how to love, stop the warring. I look at things like you just take a look at some of the news and such as that, and if you were in a species that have already evolved past warring, you do not kill your fellow mankind, you do not kill your fellow person, whatever that species might be, because that, and many of them, in fact, many people, including myself, have been told that we do not kill each other. And they find it very odd that this planet kills people and kills their fellow man. And so, we need to learn how to love. We need to get the anger and the hate out and transmute this energy that is here into a more non-judgmental, loving allowance type of thing. It doesn't matter what person's race, creed, or their sexual orientation is. What does it matter? We're all humans having, we're all spiritual beings having a human life. But I just do believe that it's all about love, and can't we just get along? I know it's pretty simplistic, but that's how I feel.
So what steps can you take to make that happen? Can we affect anything?
We as the people who are awake?
Right. Yeah. It's like we
so
are.
The people that are awake, I think,
Yes.
have kind of a duty to show their very best that they are. And, you go on Facebook and where you've got these attacks from different people and stuff like that, that does not show a spiritual person. So people have to just learn about, stop being so judgmental.
Yeah.
In my groups, that's one of my taboos. I do have some rules that people do. And if they start judging somebody, they get warned, and if they continue, they're gonna be out. So that's what we have to do, is we have to show by our example. And I know I'm not a religious person, but I think that Jesus was. I believe Jesus was a hybrid. He was an ET coming here to show people this is what you really need to be like. This is what you really need to strive to be, is a non-judgmental, loving person who doesn't hate. So we as people need to be that example.
Oh.
Right. I think on your show, like today, I was on your little chat, which was private, and there was only about 6, 7, 8 people there. We were discussing ways of doing that. And I shared that one of the things I got was 24 different timeline possibilities. One, complete destruction of the earth, and to the other side of the continuum was utopia. And the message I got from my download was, if you find yourself going into a negative direction, just do a course correction and steer towards a positive timeline, and you will actually get there. And every time you see yourself going personally into negative thought, or your friends and family, just be a loving presence, a guide to that divine unconditional love. And of course, when we're talking about this, we need to protect ourselves from those who would create us harm. So part of loving others is loving yourself, so you don't get abused.
Right.
And even by showing other people how you can be kind and loving while setting boundaries and not allowing others to, shit upon you or chat upon you. You actually are showing them models of love. Let's focus on that a little bit. We need to learn how to love. What ways can you imagine, Image, that we can show people to teach them how to love themselves and their parent others on the way to species of another kind? How can we love extraterrestrials when we have all these prejudice against our own species just because they're, a different race, color, creed, orientation? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I feel just because somebody doesn't look like you, or even is scary looking to you, like say it's an alien and it's scary looking and it's ugly and hideous to you, doesn't mean it's negative or bad. And just because it's beautiful and shiny and glowing and looks like some angelic being doesn't mean it's always good. So we have to be very discerning with what we feel, but yet loving and non-judgmental. But as for you, to protect yourself, you have to protect yourself. And I do this all the time, especially because of my background. And I believe that, like I said earlier, by our own actions, I don't see this all the time, but I have people tell me 100% of the time that you are just so kind and loving, but I don't see that part of me because I'm still working on clearing a bunch of crap from my past and the MK Ultra. I don't see that about me, but they tell me that I'm, very, very I am always happy. This is something I believe, if you're happy, you're going to draw happiness in. If you're angry and mad, you're going to draw mad in. So we are manifestors, and we attract what we concentrate on. So if we're always spending our attention on negativity, then that's what we're going to draw. But even with my research with what happened to me, I still had to put a bunch of fun stuff in there, some good stuff, some happy stuff, some love stuff, some spiritual stuff, in order to balance it out. Balance is a really important thing.
Right, I agree. Well, for example, when I was a child, I met these reptilians, one reptilian that kept coming to me repeatedly over time. And every time I faced it felt male to be a male person. I had great fear and I had huge emotional, intense negative reactions. But when I finally got into hypnosis and therapy on it, I realized that he was actually kind, not even neutral. He was kind, and he was confused at my reaction because he was just trying to communicate with me. I had been accustomed to communicating with Anunnaki and Zetas, the Greys, and they have a different frequency. So when they communicate with you in your third eye or crown chakra, it feels different. So the reptilians, when they were trying to communicate with me telepathically, it felt too intense, and I said to myself, they're trying to suck my soul out of my crown chakra. But it was a misconception. So then I did the work on it, and then I was writing a book, and I was actually writing a chapter, and I came into communication with my reptilian friend, and I asked him to take for my forgiveness to accept my apology, and he did. So that was a final level of healing. And you've interacted with the reptilians. You want to tell us a little bit about your relationship with reptilians? They're the bad guys in the UFO world. They get dumped on all the time. What's your experience with reptilians?
They do. Well, I had a specific one that came to me, and I came to find out that there was a strong connection to him, and I'll tell you about that later. But when I first saw him, he just was this energy. It was energy that came into my room, and for quite some time, I had experiences where I would go places, go on board a ship, things like that, and I never saw anybody. That was some of my training as well, as far as the linguistic part of it. But I didn't see anybody aboard the ship. I only would see him in an oar. And so then, long time after I'd had contact with this being, I asked him, I said, you know what? I know you're not this energy. I feel your unconditional love, and I know you're not this form that you have in front of me, this actually formless. It was a bit of a form. You could see like a shape of a body, but it was and it had all kinds of pinks and purple colors and stuff. Actually, I had Kasara, who was on my radio show yesterday. She did a drawing for me of it, and she captured it perfectly. But, all of my communication with him was always telepathic. With the time that I'd spent with him before, it was kind of like a teaching time. I'd also had some wonderful, unconditional and loving energy, and I felt from him. I'd also had some Kundalini spiritual energy come in through it as well. And it did, in fact, continue, but at that particular night, I asked him, and he telepathically asked me, are you absolutely sure? And I said, yes, I'm absolutely sure. He asked me again, are you completely sure? Absolutely. And I said, yes, I want to know. I want to know what you look like. And how would I say it? Energy-wise, he was caressing me, but he wasn't touching me. But he was caressing me to let me know, okay, be ready. And then he appeared of what he looked like, which was a reptile. It was 7.5 foot, avocado green color, yellow gold eyes with the vertical slits, and very muscular body. His stomach had the only way I can describe it, it was an organic tortoise shell on him. That's what it kind of looked like. It was a tortoise shell. And then I don't know if it's organic armor or what it is, but that's what I saw. And then he, at the time, I don't remember any shirt. There was no shirt or anything like that. And but later I did see him in a hooded cape, and I did see he wore some kind of black tights type of thing. And it had a belt with a symbol that was a triangle, and it had a curly Q kind of thing, like maybe maybe a dragon symbol in the middle of it. He also wore some kind of a thing on his arm, which I believed was part of his transporting or communication or something like that. So from then on, now, I was really frightened at first. I was really frightened, but again, he sent me this really unconditionally loving energy, and I knew, and I recognized him, and I knew it was him, and I finally got over that fear of what he looked like, and had a wonderful experience with him, including through a lot of the times. How would I put this? When I was re-abducted after after his experience with him, or the willowy one, or the mantis one, I would be taken to an underground base. And one particular time during, and again, remember, I'm MK Ultra. Well, this one particular time, I know I was up to be sacrificed. I really, truly believe it, because I was standing there. There was a group of humans. There were also some draconians, what I call the draconians, or the Chittikara is what I call them. I know that they go by other names, but they do. This particular group does love the energy of a human when they're dying. Get into this really creepy stuff, I know, but
well, I'm curious about the role of sacrifice. I've heard that it opens up interdimensional portals, so different beings.
And it's also a drug. It's also a drug. Because they take that adrenaline, that dying adrenaline from somebody, and I guess because I'm psychic, I could actually visualize, actually see that energy leaving someone's body who was sacrificed, and there was a bigger draconian there standing at the end with a dark black purple. It's hard to tell for sure because it was very dark in there, and there was some fire and such, and it was definitely underground in kind of a cave like atmosphere, and but he was standing there at the end of the altar and was just like sucking up the energy, and it wasn't just him, it was other ones. It was like there was like a procession of them would come up, so anyway, I was standing there, and I was in what those other people were wearing. I remember seeing that they had white kind of like gown frocks kind of things on, and they were being sacrificed. And all of a sudden, here comes a being in a cloak, and some kind of interaction, because they don't talk. So some kind of interaction goes on between the reptilian that's standing right beside me and this other one in the cloak. And then I'm passed over to this other one in the cloak, and I'm walking away with him, right? So when you're in this state, you're in like a ketamine state. I'll go through the drugs and stuff that they use, but you are catatonic basically. So you walk around and you're completely controllable. So as we walked away, I heard telepathically, it's Ayano and we must run. We cannot keep this kind of facade up for long, so we have to go. And so we ran through these caverns, and then all of a sudden, all I remember is, a wall opened up and we were out. So as far as I'm concerned, he survived. He saved my life one time, and I believe because he looked enough like them, I guess, that he could pass for them. Now I believe he's from off planet, but he's never told me what planet it is. But I have now since with my own hypnotherapy regressions and stuff, I've found out that I had some reptilian lives where I lived. He and I were married, so I believe that's why he came.
Great. So let's talk about that a little bit. So what I've learned from working with all these thousands of experiencers over the year and interviewing them and getting all their stories, is that some are hybrid souls, meaning you could have a soul that has, like Simon Parks, he says, I'm part mantis, part reptilian, and part human on a soul level. And then we have, the avatars, the bodies that are created. And like Cynthia Crawford said, she's part I forget what the percentage is and what species, but I think she's got at least three alien species and the human form within her DNA. And then we have these past lives and simultaneous lives we have with these different characters, like Ayano, and he loves you. He's in love with you, and you're in love with him. On some level, you're still
on some
human,
level. I am, but I still have that feeling for him, even though I don't. And it's a long story, but I canceled all my contracts because I was having so much horrible things going on with the human side of the world. And I canceled all my physical contracts for any kind of physical contact, any kind of abduction, any kind of thing like that, including. And unfortunately, I didn't really realize at the time while I was in front of the council that when I asked for help was that I ended up canceling all my contracts. So I do not get to see him anymore. I do not get to go aboard ships that I'm, to my knowledge, anymore. However, astrally, I do have experiences, and I experience a life with him, not only as a reptilian, but also as a human. Because he's, in fact, he said to me in this human life, he said, I said, you're Ayano, aren't you? And he said, yes, I am. He said, well, yes, I am. And I said, well, but you're human this time. He says, well, is this a pleasing form for you? And I said, for me. And so I ended up having some parallel lives going on with him as a human as well as a reptilian. So just because he's a reptilian in this time doesn't mean he's always. I don't believe our souls are all one thing. And I think that's what people get stuck in, because they see an alien as a gray. That doesn't mean he's always a gray. That his soul isn't gray. His soul is infinite. His soul is so many different. We all are all one. So I think that we've been everything.
And that's what I find in interviewing people and doing regression, is that that is true. For example, when my friend is out of the closet now completely, since her husband died, and she had to, like a gag order with her husband, but now he's passed, she can talk about it. She was a Zeta who was driving one of the Roswell craft, and they delivered them. They pretended that they crashed so that humans would go over and approach the craft and think that they were so smart and they had crashed them, but they pretended. And then after she left her form as one of the Zetas, that was, or one of the Greys, we call them, she went on board ship, and then she came back as a human female, and she's alive now. So, and now also we get stuck with this time. It has to be linear.
Right.
You can have simultaneous incarnations in many forms on many planets and vibratory frequencies and dimensions, and actually that's what is happening, but because we're conditioned that we need to focus on one level at a time, we miss the greater picture. But I think what they're training us to do, many of us, is to be able to embrace our simultaneous lives and incarnations themselves. And so how can you be prejudiced against a gray or a reptile or a mantis when you actually are one in a different time stream or dimension or vibratory frequency or planet?
Yes, I agree. I 100% agree, and that's what I've found. Now, I haven't found that I'm gray, but I don't discount that at all. I'm sure I've been every race, and maybe even some animals and other races. Who knows? I think that we are really, and I think that's when they talk to us about we are all one, is trying to explain that we are all connected and that we are we're part of that facet of the universal God source, that we are all connected. And so we are all and have been everything and will be everything. Right. And it's not a past or present thing. It's simultaneously.
Well, so few can understand this, and it's a delight to talk to someone else on this level. I won't name names, but I was at this huge gathering contact in the desert, and some people were definitely down on certain species and demonizing them, and I felt a great deal of sadness when I heard that still happening. It's like the ultimate racism. It's like, okay, well, I won't be prejudiced against human races that are, Asian or black or white or orange or pink or whatever. But now it's acceptable to be a racist against, grays or reptilians or mantis or whatever. And I don't think that's acceptable really on the highest level. And that's just my opinion. Dr. Lesson, you're over there sitting looking so wise. What would you like to add to this conversation?
Well, this whole idea of opposition is very interesting. And what you were saying, Miesha, about people being judgmental. But I find that what people judge, it's just a reflection of their own inner critic in a way turned outward. But what you judge as negative, what bugs you in other people, or what you overly admire in other people or other beings, is really your underdeveloped parts. And so if you look at a gray, a zeta, and you say, these people are not like me, they're just so cold and methodical and okay, so when you're doing that, you need to look at the cold and methodical part of yourself that you can't accept and see, cold and methodical part of myself, what do you really need? And so it's easy. We don't have to make any race or any group an opposition. We can embrace them because and let their and allow our empathy to extend to them so that their welfare becomes part of our extended welfare. And that's how it is with all our relations, so to speak.
Yes, absolutely.
So what other species have you had intense relationships with?
A tall white
tall
white
tell us
gray.
about that.
Okay, well, in the order that they came, it's actually the Bee Gees which are little furry guys that resemble what the Ewoks are, actually. When I saw the Ewoks on Star Wars, I went, oh my gosh, that's the little guys. And they used to come to me when I was 3 years old. They were about the same size as me, and they would take me flying. That was my first memories of flying over the building, of the neighborhood and such as that. They also were really a loving beings, just really sweet, fun, very fun. When I'd hear them like when they'd be coming, I'd hear these little whispers like I don't know, like a munchkin, something like that, these little whispers, and I knew that they were coming, and so I had a lot of encounters with them, and also I believe that they were in my life because I was born into an MK Ultra family, and I was going through trauma-based mind control. And I actually felt that I wasn't loved at all, neither by my father or my mother, because my mother was very vacant. And I know she was also probably mind controlled, but she was vacant, and she didn't know how to love or anything like that. So, but these guys did, and they were wonderful. So I don't remember them much past 6. And then at 6, a willowy one came into my life, and that was a tall one. And, I was 6, so I felt they were very tall. But when in hypnosis, I found out they were probably about 5.5 feet tall, or maybe 6, at the most 6. Because I did do a drawing one time when I believe I was older, like a teenager, and they were still quite a bit taller than me. So I figured they're 5 to 6 feet tall. And he was white, very, very opalescent, kind of white, kind of like, opalescent's the best way to describe it. And he kind of shined, like he was also very, very, very skinny. His long arms, and he was... I called him willowy because when he walked, he actually glided, and he didn't ever touch the floor. But he was very like Jello. He was just willowy. He just didn't have any bones or anything,
Do you have any artist renditions of the BG Ewoks or the willowy?
Actually, beings? I do on my website on starseedawake.org. In my story, I believe I or even it's either on my story or it's in my gallery. I have pictures, and then of course when I do PowerPoint presentations at events, I have them there. But the willowy
Well, maybe
one
you
actually. What's that?
after the show, direct us to maybe after the show, direct or send me those links, and I'll put them up on the Aquarian Radio page that I created for today's show, so people can see. Picture says a million words, so that would be good. I have one question before we go. We'll go back to the willowy ones. On the Ewok, do you think, based on what they look like, that maybe George Lucas saw the Ewoks? Maybe he's
Absolutely.
an experiencer?
I feel so. I feel that if he didn't see one, he heard about it. I will tell you, and I have a picture that I will also put up there, that from a insider who sent it to me, and he said this is and I can't 100% say it is or not, but this picture it looks like close to an Ewok, so they kind of captured it. They did some changes on it. But I have a picture of this, an old picture of what was supposed to be the Ewoks. And in fact, according to the person, that Ewok actually played a tiny, tiny second cameo role. But I don't know for sure about that. But because I don't remember ever seeing it. But he actually even had a name for it. I can't even think what the name was, and maybe that's probably not good to say. But it's an amazing picture. So I'll send you that picture. It's very cool, and you can see it's not like it's a little people or anything like that. The way the body structure is, it looks pretty darn real to me, and it looks like my Bee Gees. Look just like my Bee Gees. My Bee Gees were never as buffed and square and like the ones on Ewoks, but that's what I called them, was Bee Gees.
So the Bee Gees look kind of like bear-like. Now the willowies are humanoid kind of looking, but they're
gray-like. They look like the Greys, only they're taller. Their eyes are slightly different, smaller, and they're pretty much gray looking, yeah, except they're different color, and I'm sure they're a different species, but if you were to say what do they kind of look like, I'd say the Greys.
Right.
Well, one always wonders how many fingers and whether they have double eyelids and stuff like that.
I remember that they had 4 fingers, and that's and as for Ayano, I believe he had 4 also, 3 and then a pendant claw thumb kind of thing. And I believe they had 4 also. That's my memory.
Thank you.
So you saw the willowy beings, and anything else you want to say about the willowy tall
Well, that
grays?
one was with me through my whole life, including my children. My children had encounters with those groups. Not the Bee Gees, but the willowy one. And in fact, one particular time, because he is tall, like I said, he's like 5 to 6 feet tall, is how I absolutely knew he was one night. And I should also say that he kind of is in charge on board the ship, because the little Greys were also there. Now, whether they were the clone-like or robotic-like, they didn't have really emotions, and they just kind of, I called them little doctors, is what I called them, because they just went about their work, and that was it. So they was with me with the willowy one. So the willowy one, and on board the ship, I would see both of them. And even one time, I saw the willowy one, the Greys, and I saw Ayano way in the back. This was when I was 16 years old, and I saw 3 dark figures in cloaks towards the very back. It was like it felt like a huge room, and they were in the distance, but I felt this familiar feeling, and I said, I know you. One of you. I know one of you. I know you. And he stepped forward, dropped his cloak, and it was Ayano, that I didn't know at the time was Ayano, but I come to find out, yes, it was Ayano. So he has been watching. for ever since I was a child.
How tall is he?
Oh, Ayano's 7.5 feet tall.
Oh my goodness. Now, do you have children with Ayano?
I actually do have, how they told me about it is that I do have 2 children anyway, with what genetics from Ayano. I was presented with a little reptilian child. Now, many times I had presentations from other kids, but this one particular time I was in the nursery, and again, the type that were like the willowy one. It wasn't the willowy one this time. It was, I got a really female energy from it, but I don't know. But anyway, a maternal. It may not have been female. It was maternal because it was in the nursery. And I saw children in there, and then I just stood there because I knew it was some kind of presentation. And then the children kind of stepped aside, and out walked this a bit stockier child who was green, like a light green with scales, really very minor scales, but still scales. And I immediately bonded and knew it was my baby. And I said, who's the father? Because I wondered. And because I don't ever remember any physical contact with Ayano, ever. But I said, who's the father? And they said, well, you call him Ayano and the all. And when they are talking to you telepathically, you get whole thought form imagery. You know, it's like you get such knowledge from just a few words because you're seeing things and feeling things. It's hard to describe, but I'm sure you know what I mean. Yeah. And so I knew that the all was many other genetics. So Ayano's genetics and many other genetics. And that's what they were saying to me. And in fact, that little willowy guy is on my KCOR website. He's one of the little icons on my show, on my banner.
Oh yes, so that's I've seen that. That's a very lovely image, and I'll put that also on the webpage.
Mm-hmm. That was drawn by Sasha.
I was saying that earlier that Miesha came in last minute because we had a cancellation, but Miesha, I think we've done about 10 shows together at least over the years on the different radio stations. But I'm going to pull up your icon because that I always wondered the background with your icon that you created for K-Core Radio. Your show is called Star Family.
I didn't create that. Tina Marie created that. I gave her the picture of the little child, the baby. But she created the rest.
Right. Yeah, she's the artist, but she's like the police artist for your descriptions of what you want to show, right? And so I've done that before. Like, no, it has a bigger nose, smaller nose, taller, shorter, wider. And so with the two of you, you created this wonderful image, which I'm pulling up right now so I can look at it so I can ask you questions on it. Oh, okay. So you, I wanted to ask you, did you ever remember, being lovers with Ayano? Did that, either past life or current existence?
Oh, definitely in past life. We were husband and wife, and yes, definitely. Okay, I'm going to tell you a story that is very interesting. I shared it today for the first time with anybody in group. Okay, I was in a relationship with a man in the 90s, and this was all the time when I was having a lot of encounters with Ayano and a lot of experiences. Anyway, we were in a love making. We were making love. Okay, so all of a sudden, I see this swirling energy above me, and it's all different kinds of colors, whirling energy, and I recognize the energy. And then the next thing I know, the man that I'm with, my boyfriend, is not exactly like my boyfriend. He doesn't look different, but his energy is completely different. And in fact, the Kundalini comes into play here. And it was tremendous. And so when women say that they've had relationship with a reptilian, they say it spoils them for humans. Well, that could be the reason why, because that energy is there. And I said, Ayano, get out of him. And that very moment, Ayano did pull out and said, oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted to feel what it would be like to be with you again physically. Oh. And I'm sorry, I won't ever do it again. But it freaked the man out because he realized something went on, especially with what I said. I'm saying it out loud. I'm not telepathic. And it did freak him out, and he was not really very happy. I know other reptilian experiencers, and it is hard for us to have relationships. Not that they come in all the time, but it's kind of a little harder to have relationships with human men.
Right. And we're coming up on the break, so we'll pay attention to the music in a couple of minutes. But I have your image here. So the little being that you're hugging, that's your child with the big blue eyes and kind of yellowish skin. Yeah. And then there's a being that's kind of grayish looking, and he's standing behind a being that looks kind of like they have maybe a metal space, or it's a shiny space suit. And we're on a break. We'll have to go into this after we get back. Thank you for listening. Back in about five minutes. This is the Sacred Matrix. Listen.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message. The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original. The future is uncertain. I know this. Death is inevitable. I know this. But one thing is certain, as free men, it is our right to live unencumbered and in peace. And those times are quickly drawing to an end. And in these times, peace is certainly an illusion, and as the chains grow tighter, our ability to slip those chains increase incrementally with every passing moment. Inaction is no longer an option. It's time to raise our voices like a cacophony of thunder and lightning and tell the masters no more. And this is Nighthawk, and I say, for myself, no more. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, because the freedom is slipping away.
Looking for a nightcap to fill your listening needs? Come join us on Spaced Out Radio with me, Dave Scott, right here on Revolution Radio. Monday through Friday for 3 hours a night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, we will take you down the supernatural path. From ET contact to the paranormal and all of the spiritual, cryptid, and conspiracy stories in between. You can find us right here on Revolution Radio, at spacedoutradio.com, on Twitter at spacedoutradio, and on Facebook at Spaced Out Radio Show. Spaced Out Radio. It's a night of talk and interaction. Are you experienced?
Enjoy your extra big-ass fries.
You didn't give me no fries. I got an empty box.
Would you like another extra big-ass fries?
I said I didn't get any.
Thank you. Your account has been charged. Your balance is 0. Please come back when you can afford to make a purchase.
No.
I'm sorry you're having
trouble.
Come
on. My kids are starving.
Thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio. Here at Revolution Radio, we believe in freedom of ideas, freedom of speech, but above all, we believe in freedom of existence through self-reliance. This station is 100% listener-supported, and as a fundraising promotion, I have a kick-ass free gift for a $100 donation. 35,000 seeds. 25 years in the freezer. Long-term storable, 54 different varieties. So if food prices go crazy, the shit hits the fan, or if you just want to save tons of money every year by creating your own food like I do, grab our seed pack special. Just look for the banner on the homepage at freedomslips.com. Don't be a statistic. Don't be part of the problem. Be part of the solution. We need, as humans, to start taking care of ourselves and not depending on the megacorps to provide unhealthy, nasty food. Included in this package is also a DVD with 900 survival and off-grid living documents and the offline home canning how to do everything website all on the DVD. So when you're growing all that food, you know how to can it, store it, preserve it, etc. with all these documents. So thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I hope that you will pick up this package and start learning to be free. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps and freedom is one seed that needs to be planted.
What we do in life, it goes in eternity.
This is Thomas, a.k.a. a Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent news story, and I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Hey folks, Captain Nighthawk here. Do you have a favorite host? Well, imagine if you will having all the broadcast shows from 2013 to listen to anytime you want. Awesome deal, huh? Anyway, so stop by freedomslips.com and order the entire 2013 library of your favorite host for just $30. Not only do you help with the station funding to keep us on the air, you also help the host because they get half of the net on every order. Also, we have Revolution Radio's all-time favorite shows all on one disc. The details are really broad, so you'll have to visit the website and go look at the details yourself. It's, again, www.freedomslips.com/season2013.htm. And get your favorites. First come, first serve, 7 to 21 days for delivery. Thank you. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps, including me. Later.
We've got to stop them! They're going to kill us all!
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Welcome back, folks. We're having a little technical problems, and I'm trying to get Janet back on the line now. Do that, I want to remind everybody this is Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we are totally listeners. Janet's guest, Miesha Johnston, is still here with us.
Okay.
Miesha, you want to go ahead?
You have reached the voicemail box of 80.
Okay. Well, you know, we were talking about ET experiences, and they had a couple of questions. One of the questions was, what is Monarch program? So I'll just go ahead and tell you about that. Monarch programming is a method of mind control used by numerous organizations for covert purposes. It's sadistic and traumatizing of the victim. They create a mind-controlled slave who can be triggered at any time to perform any action required by the handler. This is accomplished by techniques compromising elements of a satanic ritual, MPD, DID, which is multiple personality disorder. It utilizes a combination of a psychological, hypnosis, neuroscience, and the occult rituals to create alters in the personalities. Now,
Miesha, hang on a second. I'm going to have to drop the call and restart in order to get them in with us.
Okay.
In order to get you in.
I had to reboot my computer.
All right, you're back live now. Let me get Miesha again.
Okay. Aloha, everybody, and welcome back to the Sacred Matrix on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I'm Janet Carol Lesson with Dr. Sasha Lesson, and we are your hosts today with our guest, Miesha Johnston. But before we get back to our show, I want to remind everybody to please go over to that donation button on freedomslips.com and make your donation. Donate $1, $5, $15, $20, $100, whatever you can spare. We greatly appreciate your donation. Thank you very, very much. So, a mad painter, Thomas Becker, is getting us back up and running here and getting back to our guests. And before we get back to our show,
she's here.
She's here.
Yeah, we already started the show back again, but in order to get you on, I had to reset it.
All right. Well, that's good. Thank you for your patience. I'm not sure what happened. I lost my whole modem, went down. I had to reboot my computer for it to come back. So that's because we're talking, Miesha. They're after us.
You never know.
So we were talking about your on your image, which I will put on the show page. You have a being that's kind of a light being on the right-hand side. What is that? Is that Willie being or a different being?
No, that was just something that Tina put in there. There was actually the symbology of it was the baby, then the tall white gray in the back, and then the reptilian that's there. But the other one, I don't really know why that was put in there. It was just another visual.
Okay. Sasha, you have a question about these holding off. So I'm going back to our term when we started here. Oh, first of all, is there anything you want to say to finish our thought that we were talking about when we went to break?
Okay. Let me see if I remember that.
That seemed like years ago already.
Yes. Well, I already came back and I was giving the description of what an MK Ultra is. So I was going through that. But your last question.
Sasha said we were also talking about how difficult it is having a human relationship once you have a lover who's able to activate their Kundalini energy.
Yes. And I shared my very, very private experience. And well, it is. It's hard. But
I understand. Because one of my parts of my life was as a tantrika, learning tantra, mastering tantra. I met Sasha. We had the School of Tantra. We're actually coming full circle. I'm going to start it up again because there's a very strong experiencer faction of this Kundalini awakening process that allows you to connect not only with your higher self and become conscious and aware and enlightened and clear all your psychological and emotional issues, but it opens up hailing frequencies to extraterrestrial contact and allows you to be more calm and centered when you have contact with extraterrestrials. So you're not in that fight or flight fear mode so much anymore. So we were talking about that earlier on your show. And but having had a beloved, lovers that are tantric is much different than people that are kind of just regular, because they don't have the mastery of their energy, of their chakras, of it's like the difference between having sex and making love and making divine, conscious, spiritual love. There's like different degrees. And so it's hard to go back once you've had a sacred, divine, tantric kind of Kundalini awakening lover. That's how I experience it. I've talked to many people on that level. And today I was surprised how many people on your discussion had Kundalini awakening. Sasha wants to say something.
Yeah, my advice to the listeners, is, if you're in a situation with an alien, be there enthusiastically and dig it. Yeah, you might as well.
So back to you, Miesha. What else would you like to share?
Well, okay, so you asked me about my different experiences with the different beings. So it kind of covers the types, other than, I haven't gone into the MILAB experience. Of course, I have MILAB experience as well. My book, my first book that you mentioned about covert abductions, military harassment, surveillance, interrogation, and mind control, is really just covering some of my MILAB experiences. My next volume I'm working on right now is going to be discussing all of the missing time, the MK Ultra, my missing periods of time for 8 months and such. But did you have any other ET questions before we go into that?
Well, we didn't talk about the mantoid.
Oh yeah, did you have a mantis experience?
It was a very brief one, and I don't remember much anything other than it's not like a praying mantis. It was some kind of a different one than a gray, and I would call it a mantis. I would call it in the mantis family, but it was not a praying mantis. And I only remember one thing, and feeling that it had a coarse skin, and that's all I remember. So it probably was a hybrid of some type.
Yeah, I remember seeing the hybrid gray, tall gray mantis when I was in the underground station. I looked at it and I go, well, that's not really a pure gray. It looks like it's part mantis. And I saw the mantis, a lot of times we remember only, 1 or 2 experiences. We may have had a lot more interactions with these different beings, but we're only remembering, and until we go through hypnosis, we don't have all the details. And
Right.
often we don't even think of going there until something in our current lives may trigger the memory from the previous part of our lives or even past lives. So
yeah, well, and when you talk about underground, that does help me remember that, yeah, the ones in the underground they were very mantis in a way looking, but not like the praying mantis, big eyes and the funny, front hands, legs, or arms, or whatever you call them. But they were in a beige appearance, very tall and very skinny, and they were. Well, I'll tell you the experience on that was when I was in an elevator. I think I've shared this one though. But anyway, I was in an elevator going down with some other people, and we were going down. I could see a couple of people in front of me, humans. Naturally, they were also abductees. And as I saw a military guy standing there with a gun right there at the in front of us, and myself, and I'm sure everybody else, was in this kind of catastrophic kind of state that we basically all we could do is look forward and move our eyes, and that's it. So but we were also shuffled out when the doors opened, and there was a group going to the right, a group going to the left. I was a group going off to the left, and as I did, I turned my eyeballs and looked over to see the other group going off to these tall, mantis-looking, beige-colored beings, and my son was in there, my 13-year-old son. So really freaked me out because I wasn't sure whether I'd going to see him again at the time. It was very frightening. But that's true. Those mantis, those look like they're the closest thing I can say to what a mantis might be. But I've never had the praying mantis that a lot of people have talked about.
Yeah, and I've had both, so I know the difference, and they were definitely a different species. And I think that that tall mantis gray hybrid was thinner than the regular pure manifest being, if I recalling correctly. But it's really interesting. I hope someday that we create like a weekend or something where we're uninterrupted. We can all hypnotize each other and see what we get.
I'd love that. Yes. That'd be great.
Some of these things are so repressed, but as soon as you go into that state, it's like it's amazing. I don't know if our listeners who's been hypnotized, but when I get hypnotized, I have it come back in such great detail. I'm often crying or smiling or laughing or cathartic, and sometimes I'm pissed off when somebody didn't ask permission or something. But I have great emotional content, and excuse me, I really enjoy accessing those memories. So, okay,
me too.
So
all my hypnotherapist friends have left here, and so I don't have anybody. So I really look forward to it. Maybe us getting together.
Listen, I would like to just say to the listeners, if you're hypnotized, listening right now, if you're hypnotized, turn the volume up a little. If you're not hypnotized, turn the volume down a little. Okay, so you're hypnotized, because if you did either one, you're following my suggestion. Dig it?
Okay, makes sense. Usually do have to turn the volume up.
So we were talking about the different terms, MILAB, MK Ultra, Monarch. Could you continue with your explanation of the term?
Okay. Well, I already told people about the Monarch. I was starting to, I should say. Now, if you want me to repeat it, I can do that for you. But because you know already, so I don't think I need to repeat it. But I'll just kind of go on from where I finished, unless they're going to edit that out. I don't know. What do you think? Should I go ahead and start over?
No, keep going.
Okay, so a primary important factor for a trauma-based mind control is the ability to dissociate. And it was discovered that the ability is passed genetically from generation to generation. So the dissociation is a very important factor. Not everybody probably can dissociate, and some can. In fact, my father would, when he was doing the trauma-based mind control on me, he would tell me to go out of my body. He would say, you need to leave, because the pain that I am causing is not near as much as what you're going to be receiving later in your life. So, he used to tell me to go out. So when you go out, something else probably has to come in, and so that's how it is. So the CIA and the Illuminati are skilled at blackmailing parents and giving up their children. So they would watch the mail for porn, pedophilia, murderers, or who abuse their children, or are warned that they will go to prison for long lengths of time if they do not cooperate by selling their children into mind-controlled slavery. Now, and in many cases, and this was not the case here, this was the case as my father was mind-controlled, so therefore, and he was DID, so therefore, other children would be, and we've gone in this within other shows, so I'm not going to go into it, but suffice to say that by the time I was born, 4 of the children had already died of very odd things, very suspicious things. So I believe that in fact, my father on a deathbed said to me, I'm very sorry that I did what I did to you, but I had to, because your mother couldn't handle losing any more children. And from that, and then he actually passed away very soon after that, but he went back into his coma right after that. And so I know from that I'm sure they were being tortured to give up children all the way along, and they wouldn't do it. So they ended up I'm sure somebody ended up either taking the children, killing them, or whatever. I don't know. There's death certificates for all of them, and that's what I've looked up, and that's all I can tell you. But so a type of father who is most preferred by the programmers is to offer up the children for programming in pedophilia or the Monarch or any of these programs is the father who will abuse his own little baby girl. Then the programmers know that this man has no conscience. So that is, some of the things they look for. However, also part of the mind control is in I'm just going to read this. In research, I have found that retinol, ketamine have become known as and it's well known as the date rape drug. But it was been in with the CIA. I've been using it for a long time. These drugs are odorless and colorless and can easily be slipped into someone's drink. They can cause dizziness, disorientation, loss of inhibition, and loss of consciousness. They can also produce an amnesic state, causing a victim to be unclear of what, if any, crime was committed. These drugs are particularly dangerous when they're combined with alcohol. A person can lie on the floor, eyes open, able to observe events of what is happening to them, such as being raped or something like that, which has happened to me as well, and not be able to do anything about it. And afterwards, their memory is so impaired that they cannot even recall what happened. So hypnosis, drugs, psychosurgery, separately and combined, were the tools that they use in the Illuminati to cause a truth serum in one hand and the capability to create an agent who could not have his or her mission tortured out of them, or even be aware that they were carrying secret information given to them in an altered state of consciousness. More and more sophisticated drugs were experimented on, such as LSD, ketamine, psilocybin, lobotomies, psilocybin. Now, lobotomies and the implantation of electrodes were considered a method for creating a compliant agent. Electroconvulsive shock combined with LSD, sedation for days at a time, which was done to me, which, if I have time, I'll share a little bit of that, it's like the sleeping program, and it's constantly replaying the same message over and over and over and programming people. Also, helmet-mounted headphones also used, and these were from a Canadian researcher, Cameron, who actually started this and found this out for the CIA. He was the one that discovered that it could be done, and and at that time you could implant your own memories in after you've wiped the other memories out. So a systematic program to create and manipulate other alter personalities on a foundation for programming courses, the resistance to torture, where a primary personality would not even be aware of their secret information being carried, and the information could be summoned forth via a post-hypnotic command or response to a pre-programmed cue. Research continued until, well, it's continued on. Supposedly it stopped in the 70s, but it's continued on. But now they've gone to the psychotronic, so they can do it all remotely.
Right.
Wow. A monarch is someone who goes one step further. They're now programmed and trained into being sex slaves, being couriers, being drug mules as well. They're also used in the blackmailing things where they want a senator to vote the way they want. They put him in a precarious situation with some monarchs and doing some sadistic sick thing in sex or whatever else, torture, whatever. And so then now they have them in their pocket. So this was used, and in fact, my memory, and it's way too short for me to tell you this, but anyway, I was 17 years old at the time. I was at a college cafeteria. A man walked up to me and said, to us, and said, hey, you guys want to make some money? You can make money in our dream program, and all you got to do is we just watch your dream, and that's it. So I decided I would do it because I could use the money. And last thing I remember is walking into the building, and the next thing I remember is 8 months later, I'm on a bus looking at a ticket with a last name that I don't recognize, and then the program that is playing in my head is I was married. He didn't want to be married anymore. He was a Navy Marine corpsman. And his parents said, if you get rid of your wife, we'll send you through medical school. And so he put me on the bus and said that was it. So that was my memory that played. Also, my memory was I was trying, I had a lot of hours, like 9 hours or so, to figure out, get any kind of memories. And so one other memory came up was that we cleaned, I was in a group of people who cleaned houses. Also, that I had encephalitis, which is a brain disease that at that time, and I've looked it up, was only with children. So I was quarantined to my home. So that's why I don't have any memories of being out or anything. So those are the 3 memories I had, period, of 8 months. And when I got home, I called my parent. I mean, when I got to the bus station, I called at the end of my ride, I called my parents. They came and picked me up and proceeded to tell me that I had been married, and I had walked down the aisle, and I had a wedding dress, and I even had a reception after the wedding. And they actually hated the man who was my husband. And in fact, my father refused to walk me down the aisle. They also told me that I acted very weird and that they thought that maybe I was doing drugs or something. And I have no memory whatsoever of it. The only memory I have of a wedding, and it came up later on, was standing in front of a mirror looking at somebody who looked like me but didn't feel like me. And I'm screaming in the back, going, no, no, can't happen, no. And it was me, and as a back altar, and my front altar had taken over. During a regression, I found out it came through, and the altar, actually the hypnotherapist was saying, well, why don't you remember your wedding? Why don't you remember your wedding? And the altar opened my eyes and grinned and said, because it wasn't her wedding, it was mine, and she's asleep like she's supposed to be. And so I realized, that's what it was. There was an altar, and in fact, she had completed and found out how old the altar was. In fact, the altar had come into my life at 3 years old. And she asked, why did you come into the life? And the altar said, I had to, because if I didn't, she'd have died. I'm the strong one. She's the weak one. If I didn't take all of the pain, she wouldn't have lived.
Wow.
So my altar came in at 3 years old. So, and I'm sure that was during the trauma-based, tortures and stuff that my father.
Well, what happens is the altars come in as a result of torture. So that's when they start splitting.
Yeah. And they know this. I mean, this is what they know how to do it. And so when you have a mind-controlled person and my father used to talk about how severe his life was, how horribly he had. And I kind of think, and I know he had a different personality. Several times I saw it come out, and it was vicious, totally vicious. He was a very abusive man, So, so that's kind of what they look for, and it runs in families. And so, you said you'd never heard about my second one, so I'll tell you about my second missing time.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, with the second missing time, I was in Ogden, Utah. I was in Salt Lake at the time. I was in Salt Lake, and the phone rang. I remember hearing what I thought was a fax tone, and that was the last thing I really remember. And the next thing I don't remember. Well, the next thing I remember is my brother knocking on my door and me opening it, and him saying, your sister's husband was murdered and you have to come and help her. And I bought you this yellow Volkswagen to use and to drive there. And I'm in San Francisco now. So from Utah to San Francisco. Now, there is that memory that that screen memory that plays in my head that I went to Bob's Big Boy and walked in, sat down, and somebody walked in, a man, and said, "Who will take you? Will take me to, or will you? I think it was a will. Will you take me to San Francisco?" And I of course, I said yes. Right. That's not my style at all. But so that's this memory, and I'm thinking to myself, that's no way. It's not me. I would never take a stranger. I wouldn't even pick up hitchhikers. So I had very little memory. The only memory I have of San Francisco is I remember now this is where the ritual abuse seemed to be more strong there. Satanic ceremonies, pentagrams, goats' heads. These are just flashes that are the only thing there. A hill and driving down in a car, feeling like I'm going to die because whatever drug they had me on was just the most horrifying thing. I felt like I was going to die, and the girl next to me was screaming like she was on fire.
Wow.
It was just, and that's really, and then one other time I remember a castle. That's it. That's some memory of that. However, in Seattle, I didn't tell you about the one memory of, the movie Eyes Wide Shut. Well, I experienced that. In fact, when I was telling you that I was supposedly a group of people who cleaned houses and stuff. Well, the memory did finally come back to me in flashes on the way home from the bus, and I forgot to tell you this part. That I was in a bus with 6, I think it was, young men, 11, 12, 13, and some young women my age. We pulled up to a big iron gate. The word Victoria Island is in my head, and that's all I know. And as we went through the gate, the lights were all on, like it was a big party. We were driven around to the back, took up the back stairs, and we were used as party favors. Now, the boys were never brought down, but the young women had told to put on these fine gowns and go down and mingle and be chose, So there was also masks, like it was an Eyes Wide Shut. There was a really ritual ceremony that happened after the party that was very reminiscent of the Eyes Wide Shut. So that's Monarch. That kind of tells you what a monarch.
What happens in the ritual in the Eyes Wide Shut? I didn't see that movie.
What happens in that movie?
Yes, he didn't see.
Okay, in the movie, in the Eyes Wide Shut, they're proclaiming that these are prostitutes that they use, and they're of their own free will, which is a lie. That this guy they're pretty much programmed. You can see that, and then then they drop their robes and they go and mingle and choose and are chose to go up and serve and be the party favors and things like that. So. And everybody who is attending this soiree are all in masks. And that is something I remember, seeing parties with masks. I also remember seeing parties with elites, with government officials, Hollywood people, and aliens. I also remember aliens.
Wow.
Now, I don't know if they were aliens I don't remember them looking like aliens, but I knew they were aliens. I'll put it that way. Maybe they were shapeshifters. I don't know. But that experience, that ceremony afterwards had reptilians and some humans and stuff in it as well. So they do.
What was your emotional experience while you were in these situations? What were you feeling in your guts, and what were you feeling in your heart, and what were you thinking?
You know, you're really, when I look back on it, what was I thinking was sick to my stomach. And, you know, fear, but yet no emotions are ever shown because, again, with the ketamine and those kinds of drugs, you are totally usable, pliable, and you do whatever they ask. In fact, you will kill somebody under those kinds of drugs. I know other people who have talked about this.
So you feel it inside, but you don't show it. One of my clients, they said, if you cry, you're next. As this other child was being sacrificed.
Yes, yeah. Well, if you're going back to my childhood, yes, I remember emotions, and I also remember threats like that during sacrifices. And they would often sacrifice somebody that you'd gotten connected with, so for that purpose. They put you together so that you would make friends, and it brought the programming stronger and stronger by doing that, because then you realize you can't connect with anybody, you can't love anybody, you can't be friends with anybody, so because they're going to be taken away, they're going to be killed in front of you.
Wow.
So how did you learn to survive all this? You seem to be so strong and centered and conscious, and yet you've had these horrendous things happen to you in your life.
Well, I was not at all together until about 1989. I was a mess, and I'd had the psychiatric, and I'd been, I was, I had never, well, I shouldn't say that. I had been in psychiatric places, but those were when I was taken and put there. But I had never consciously been put into a psychiatric ward. But I have had a lot of psychiatric help, and I was in Utah. When I went back to Utah, I ended up doing a lot of therapy and such as that. So the therapy helped, and I also was fortunate to have one woman who was my hypnotherapist who was open enough to believe it, and she, open enough to accept it, I should say. She had a hard time believing it, but accept it, because she brought out not only the ET, but the MK Ultra stuff, and she really thought that I was just, I was just imagining that, and that it was all just my father. Which a lot of times, they blame, they say, oh, it's just your family. Well, it oftentimes people find out if they've been abused sexually by family and family members, it's a big possibility that there is more to it.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So where else do you want me to go?
Okay, well, I'm just kind of, that was very intense. So you've been through this incredible, and part of what we know in healing is once you go through it, when you start working with other people, it takes it to another level and allows you to heal even further.
Right.
Every time you take somebody through it, there's a part of you that goes through it again. And each time you do the work with somebody, part of you is identifying, accessing additional memories, able to empathize with them and with that part of yourself that was the victim, that was helpless and couldn't do anything. So tell us about your work. Let's switch it to the pod.
Well, you got to embrace the perp and feel so that you can have your own assertive energies and not just be tied to the victim role.
Yeah, I know. I hear that a lot. And, my spiritual, I became very, very spiritual. I started attending a teaching of the inner Christ. I went through a lot of classes on self-mastery and different kinds of classes to try to get in touch with that who I am, and I think it kind of helped me realize that I signed up for this. I did.
Yes.
I did. I agreed that was going to be my life. Of course, when you're out there and you're the spiritual being, you're going, hey, I can handle this. But when you get into this body and this avatar, and you have to feel it and the emotions and everything like that, it's so much different. And there was many, many times that I, felt like this, I can't complete this. But I know I agreed to be in the family I was. I agreed to be born and to do the things. And being in the family, that brought in the mind control part of it. So I agreed to it. I agreed to it to be with the ETs I am. Now, granted, I don't feel that if I'd have known everything that happened, would I have agreed? Probably not. But because it plays out differently than what I think we think it's going to play out. But it was a mission, and I needed to learn the good, the bad, and the ugly. I needed to learn all aspects of the world and what can happen in an experience, from the good, positive ETs to the negative government. And so I believe that helped me tremendously to understand people who are experiencers who come into my groups. I don't have judgments, because how can I judge them when I have experienced such a strange thing in my life, and that is unbelievable. It's even unbelievable to me. There isn't a day that goes by that I don't think, you know what, I think a lot of that screen marry me. And I do. I still think that there's some implanted memories in there. That's what I'm trying to get through. So I write a book that's honest and correct, But anyway, I digress here. So I just feel that it made me a better understanding, more loving human being. And I don't have to be a victim when you know that you made the choice. And you have a choice to stay in that pain and the victimization role, or you have a choice to get out of it. And I chose to get out of it. And it's a choice, just like a free will is. It's a choice. So if you want to stay there, you can, and you can have a miserable life for the rest of your life and die that way. But that's not my choice. So.
Wow. Yes. Go ahead, Sasha.
Well, it's like Len Kasdan talks about our genetics, how we're the result of, we're partly reptilian, and so the part of ourselves that are fractal with the Dracos is a really interesting part. And if we become one with it, what we do is we say, there's a part of me that's aware of hierarchy and wants to be on top. But what does that part really need? Why does it want that? And what it probably needs is to be admired and be loved, and so that once you start dealing with the needs of whoever is interacting with us, whatever skyfaring species, if we can just feel our oneness with them, we have a chance for them to feel us, because it works two ways. And so I think that's what's really important. That's the basis of transcendence, to see that the apparent other is really part of self, and you're not trapped within your former idea of self. And your experiences, Miesha, have been an ever-expanding sense of your own self. I have the most difficulty dealing with the young men, the soldiers, who are torturing people, who are party to this mean things done to people in the abductions. And they're just, and I understand a lot of them are doing it because they think they're protecting their country, and they think that they're assassinating people. They're killing for Jesus. It's bizarre, but that's so when the Dracos take over a place, and what Kasdan says they have via the Nazis who have infiltrated our government and paperclipped and done all the mind control stuff, that the Dracos really have done the mind control, and the Nazis are, for the most part, in control of the military mind of these people, all the super soldiers who don't empathize anymore with the rest of us humanity.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Well, from my perspective, it's just time to take it to the higher level.
Yeah.
So who are we at the level of source and right next to source in that vibratory frequency that we created this paradigm, this continuum upon which to play it out with the light, dark, good, bad, evil, good parameters. We are in some way everything and all of it, and we created this system to diversify existence and create experiences. So that's where you can go to have some compassion and empathy for everybody and everything, and those who chose to be the bad guys, the black cats in this, are actually suffering as much as those who are being the victims. The victimizers are suffering as much as the victims. So what does this system of suffering create for everybody? So what's the purpose of the victim of suffering, of the system of suffering?
Singularity.
I guess what's his name? Russell Brinninger says is that we're going towards the singularity. So by acknowledging and feeling our separateness, we actually can get the polar opposite, which is our oneness. Then we achieve Om Namah Shivaya. Everything, we are everything, and everything. Yeah, like what was his name? The guy, Talbot, the young man who died of cancer. They said this is a holographic universe, and that we're in everything, and everything is in us. Have you experienced in your exchanges with extraterrestrials and all these people, anyone talking about this concept of Om Namah Shivaya? We are everything and everything is us.
Yeah, well, when I work with a galactic, they call themselves the consortium. When I saw them, I felt like they are like, I see them in astral, okay? And so they'll come through and they'll speak to me, and maybe not astral, but I can see them through another dimension, let's say, because I'm wide awake when I'm doing it. But they have told, and actually some of them are hybrids that I communicate with, but they do call themselves a consortium. And they told me at one time that we are all one, and they said, you are our sister, you're our brother, you're our mother, we are your, and they just kept going over and over and over again. So, I mean, that's kind of the closest thing I can think of is what you're talking about. I don't know. I guess I don't really say I've had that same identical thing, but the ETs, feel that we're all just connected, and I think what they were saying to me was, you have been everything, we've been everything, we are everything together, we are one.
Right. Sash. Okay, so we are winding down towards the end of the show. We have less than 10 minutes.
What was the funnest thing that you saw, the most interesting stuff from Contact in the desert, Miesha?
Oh, yeah, you were just at Contact. Tell us about your experience.
Well, I got to tell you, the best thing that I had an experience was when at Giant Rock the last night, unfortunately, why I couldn't come to your group, and I was out there working and helping Melinda. We had a sighting that came down rather low. It was away from us, but it was rather low. Now I didn't get to see this happen, but they said it went behind the mountain. But then we kept watching that area, hoping they'd come back up. And we had many other sightings, lots of other sightings, but this one was towards the end of the night. And so then all of a sudden, 3 jets come flying by from the airport. They come from the 29 Palms, and they come, and there's one in front and two flanking him, and they go towards that area where the people had seen the UFO go behind the mountain. And next thing we know, we see, here comes the UFO shooting almost, not straight up, but very diagonally up the sky. And here comes a flashing jet, and the UFO has no flash on it. We can see it is. Now, some people said it had a very odd design, like one of those that has that curly Q look to it. Like what did they say? Like can't remember now what it was. But anyway, it was a very odd shaped thing. And somebody did it in the sand, and that's all I remember about it. But we watched while this jet to catch up with this ship, and it's just taken off away from him, but still he's staying close. And I know that the ship was just messing with him, because if he wanted to, he could have zipped right out of the way. But so he chased him across the sky, so all the way across all of us, and kept chasing and chasing until we saw the UFO go out of sight, and the ship we could still see the flashing in the far future. So that was really cool, because Melinda had said in 743 tours, she had only seen 4 of these chases that were this good and this close and stuff. So it was pretty cool. And I believe it'll be that somebody took a video of it, though the video isn't as good as what we saw. It will be on Facebook, I understand, soon, or on Contact in the Desert site.
Yeah, I've gotten from several whistleblowers the direct orders: do not fire on extraterrestrial craft. If you do, they'll shoot you down.
Exactly.
I just wonder if they were putting on a show for you guys.
Oh, I think they were. I definitely think they were, because we had been flashing them, and we had all kinds of experience in contact. And in fact, the people had been flashing the ship before it went underneath the mountain. I'm sure they were aware that we were there, and they probably were putting on a show.
Yeah, I was at the Skywatch last year. I didn't get to do it this year because all my classes were at night. But there were to the bottom left, which I think was probably west or something. I don't know. I can't quite get the direction. They kept coming up from the ground, and they would come up 2-3 at a time, and they would go really fast, much faster than a plane. And then they weren't blinking, and they would go and dance around each other way up over our heads. So they definitely weren't. They could be the secret space program. They could be, reverse engineered craft, not necessarily extraterrestrials in there. Who knows, anymore.
Yeah, who knows? Even this one could have been a reverse engineered craft. We don't know.
Right. We just know there's something that isn't within this paradigm of this reality of what the governments are revealing to us. So did you see any presentations or panels? Did you have any?
Oh yeah, I saw some. There was some good things. I tell you, probably my favorite thing was I was able to be part of the experiencer group. Barbara Jean Lynn had an experiencer group, and you were there, of course, as well. And the group was a large group of people, so she had us split up and take them into different areas. And my area was MILAB experiences, and so that was very, very, very interesting. I really enjoyed that. Talking to new people, I made some new friends and contacts that I've already attended my internet Zoom groups.
Oh, wonderful.
I'd like to just quickly say these Zoom groups are open to everybody. They're public, and they're in, and they can just go on Facebook to find them. You can also not only just use the Zoom, which is like a Skype, but you get video. You can do your video. You don't have to have your video on. You can share your pictures, because the system that it works on is anybody can share whatever is on their computer. So you can share pictures of your experience, and then also people can even call in if they want. And so I have people call in or come into the group from all over the world. And so I'd love to have people who are watching who need to share and talk with people who feel and understand and know what they're going through. And, I do private sessions, and they can go to starseedawakening.org to find out more about it.
Right. I highly recommend it. I've been to many of your groups. I can't attend every single one of them, but they're lovely. I enjoy meeting people from around the world, and there's amazing stories out there of all these people that a wide variety of experiences. I had the kind of eclectic group of experiencers because yours was the theme, and I just got but it was very interesting finding the connection with each other. It took a little bit of time, but we did. Everybody had something in common. And in fact, they were going, wow, I almost went to that group, but I stayed to this one. And it turned out to be perfect. The people that gathered in our group and in your group, I'm sure Barbara's group, it was perfect for all of them. So I recommend listeners that if you can go to a conference that has these experiencer groups, they're very powerful, and you can learn a lot about each other and about yourself. Okay, we have probably, let's see, what is it? About a minute before the music
Can I just can I just say one other thing? Tomorrow there is the JFK's 100th anniversary conference, and they can just go on JFK 100th anniversary conference. They can find it, and they can stream it live. It's really inexpensive, and it's like an all-day event, and there's all kinds of speakers, and they can check that out. So that's tomorrow. So while they're having their barbecue, they can also be watching some interesting things.
Yes, that's produced by Lori and Fenton, our dear friend. So I
yes, it is.
Recommend. She has wonderful, and that's our show. Thank you very much. Thank you, listeners. Much love and blessings. Bye.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
You need some more speed records in this day and age. You need coverage.
Coverage? Oh, you mean them little root weevils that crawl around popping off cameras in your face?
Those root weevils write history.
Many of you know that quote by Jack Nicholson in A Few Good Men, "You can't handle the truth." Well, you can, and Event Horizons will give you those truths. So when you're mad as hell and not going to take it anymore from that memorable senior network, you'll know just what to do. We will draw you in and become your news addiction at Event Horizons. Join us Monday through Friday.
Have you heard? Metro by T-Mobile now includes Amazon Prime. Yes, enjoy the best of shopping and entertainment, movies, TV shows, music, free shipping, and much more. All included for just $40 per line for 3 lines. All on the T-Mobile network. Discover the smarter way. Metro by T-Mobile. That's genius. One offer per account. Offer subject to change. $12.99 per month value. Offer valid for new Amazon Prime members. Metro customers may notice reduced speeds versus some T-Mobile customers. Video at 480p. Capable device required. See store for details and terms and conditions.